Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Colleen,
Here.
Commissioner Dobb,
Here.
Commissioner Clark-Coleman,
Here.
Commissioner Kniezek,
Here.
Chair Basham.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Next item.
B, Chair's remarks.
I don't have anything at this point. Thank you.
C, approval of the January 12th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Can I get a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve them.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
D, unfinished business. There's none listed.
Right.
Item
Next
1,
item.
under new business. Communication from Marcella Cora, Wayne County Legislative Auditor General, forwarding the Office of the Legislative Auditor General's engagements and other projects, audit, work plan, and year 22 plan.
Well, I'd like to welcome our Auditor General, her staff, and the guest. And so, Ms. Cora, could you please proceed? Thank you.
Sure, I have a presentation if you allow me to share.
I will.
Okay. Good. Marcy Cora, Auditor General. I'm the only one on for my office today.
Oh, okay.
What you have before you today, this is our audit plan for the calendar year 2022. We prepare the audit plan each year is to comply with the government auditing standards and also the standards of the Institute of Internal Auditors. We developed this as a risk-based audit approach to determine the priorities for our audit activities with the limited resources in our office. The audit plan development, as I said, we perform this annually. We do an assessment of the risk countywide. Then we prioritize and allocate our resources to the areas with the greatest risk in the county. We're continuously assessing risks throughout the year. Then there could be changes throughout the years based on requests from the commission, management officials, special projects, and unforeseen circumstances which may change our audit plan. Just a little bit about our audit process. We start out where we perform a risk assessment. Then we develop and approve the audit plan. Then we execute the audit plan where we begin the various engagements. We report the findings and recommendations to the committee on audit. Within those findings and recommendations, we will request a corrective action plan from management. Once we receive the corrective action plan, we'll assess the corrective action taken by management. And then if there's still corrective action that hasn't been addressed, we may come back and do a follow-up review of that engagement. And then we continue on with the cycle. County has 3 lines of defense for assessing and responding to risk. The first one is management. They're the first line of defense. They're responsible for identifying, assessing, establishing controls, and monitoring the risk. The risks such as finance, budget, procurement, technology, they're monitoring the risk. Then the third line of defense is the internal audit, where we assess the effectiveness of risk management, governance, and internal controls. What we do each year, we send out a risk assessment questionnaire to all elected officials and department heads. And I'm very proud to say we're 100% compliance from all the elected officials and department heads. And I just want to thank Brian Manning. He was very instrumental in allowing us to receive all the responses from the CEO's departments. When we assess the risk, we look at the budgeted revenues and expenditures. When was the last time audited? As part of the questionnaire, it includes the complexity of operations, outside interest and public exposure, regulatory and compliance, management employee turnover and reduction in staff, and then the control environment. Once we receive the risk assessment questionnaire, we meet as our leadership team and we assess the rankings by management, and we determine if we agree with their ranking or if we believe maybe the ranking should be different. We compile our risk. Some of the key concerns we noted on all of the responses from elected officials and management, it's been the same key concerns for a number of years, is the retention of personnel, the competitive salary and benefits, outdated computer systems, and policies and procedures needed to be updated. So as we develop our audit plans, we'll look at these items also.
Which seems to me, if I may, it seems like every year or annually, we come up with the same thing that we talked about the previous year relative to technology and staff and those sorts of things. So I'll let you finish your presentation, and I have some questions, and other members might also.
The 2022 audit plan is based on 27,400 engagement hours. Our current staffing, full-time and one part-time. As you know, this is a significant decrease from several years ago when we had 17, 18 auditors in our office. So we have almost half the staff that we used to. Based on the current direct hours we have, we believe we should be able to accomplish about 20 projects this year. We, as of the rest of the county, are having a very difficult time hiring auditors. We have 2 vacancies right now. We've been advertising since November. We've had 1 person apply for the position. And then when we corresponded with this individual to see if they're interested in the salary, we haven't heard back from the individual. So if anybody knows any auditors looking for positions, please direct them to our office, because we are actively recruiting. Excuse me. I've been dealing with a cough since Christmas. Some of the highlighted proposals we have in our engagement is EDC, the parking garage, and we're going to look at the expenditures in the parking garage. FMLA benefits, we know FMLA is big within the county for the sheriff department and probably DPS, so we want to make sure that the controls are in place over FMLA. We're going to look at grants. Grants are very important in the county. We want to make sure that controls are in place so that there's no disallowed costs. Sole source contracts, a key highlighted engagement. Commissioner Dobbin requested the DPS road crew hotline. So we're going to look at the efficiency of when the calls come into the hotline, how they're addressed. And then another one is the jail inmate telephone services. These are just a few of the highlighted proposed engagements. There's many more engagements, along with 2 that we're working on right now, which is the ERP system and the medical examiner's office, along with several other, but the ERP and the medical examiners, I think, are the 2 large significant engagements right now that we're working on. Some of the standard engagements we do are the limited review engagements of the standalone financial statements. We do the ACFR, which in our budget sensitive report. This is for when the commission get ready for budget deliberations, and it also is a summary of the county's financial statements. We provide input to the budget hearings. We monitor the external audit contract. We do status updates on outstanding recommendations, and then we're still waiting for our peer review. They haven't started doing peer reviews, so we are expecting our peer review to be done this year. We're just waiting for a group to come out to do it. I believe they are going to do it virtual, though. One of the types of engagements: compliance, agreed upon procedures, performance, analytical reviews, consulting, special products with non-audit services, and then the financial assessment limited reviews. And that completes my presentation. It's a short presentation today.
Well, I appreciate it. Is there any questions from commissioners? Okay, I have a couple. One, can you give us an update on the audit with the morgue? We're talking about the Wayne County morgue run by U of M.
We've completed all our walkthroughs. We received the database of all the decedents that came into the medical examiner's office. We got that on last Friday. We've did our analysis of that database so we can try to determine length of time individuals coming in, so that we can use that for our test work. And we're going to start our test work next week, going out and going through the processes of what they're doing for different categories of individuals coming in.
Right now, one of the things that was pointed out by one of the news media was that they had somebody that actually had went to the morgue. Their information was in their pocket and they never did that. So their procedures were not up to snuff, and also that somebody that was a felon that had been, I guess, cremated by the morgue, that they didn't do any fingerprints on the person. So are they like relative to their how they do things in the Wayne County morgue versus like other counties like Oakland or Washtenaw? Are we doing any comparisons or any of that kind of
Yes.
stuff?
We've already started our comparisons with Oakland County and Macomb County. We have a lot of information from those counties. And then as part of our test procedures, we're going to take each of the individual files, especially those individuals that had been in the morgue for a considerable length of time. Based on our analysis of the database received on Friday, looks like about 86% of the decedents that come into the medical examiner's office, there's probably about 8,000 of them. 86% of them are in and out in 10 days. So that's probably about the normal time frame coming in, an autopsy and going out. So we're probably going to concentrate our procedures on those that have been there a considerable length of time, and then follow the steps by looking in the case files to see what they did to identify those individuals, and then notify the next of kin and be able to release the bodies.
Could you?
And they'll be
could
looking
you
at
just-
fingerprinting and all the steps that they need
Oh,
to do, whether they did those steps, and maybe make improvements and recommendations of what they need to do.
And I really appreciate that because I think it was long overdue for somebody to go in there and check what the U of M was doing relative to running the county morgue. And then also you touched on it about the retention of and hiring of employees. That's a huge issue. It's an issue comes up every year. And do you at the plant at some point, do we have specific information relative to retention and hiring of personnel? Because we're spending literally millions of dollars on the sheriff's department alone, trying to pay, or not wanting to, but you got to pay employees overtime to work in the jail and other things that normally if we had more hires, they wouldn't have to spend the millions in overtime. And some people are not crazy about doing the overtime, but they have to keep their jobs. So,
And I think retention of staff is, prevalent in the sheriff's office, DPS, because there's a lot of staff that need to be hired. But it's also, I think, throughout the county, like M&B, they may not have a large number of vacancies, but even one or two in M&B not having those vacancies filled could have an impact on, issuing a county financial statements. So I think the county needs to look at county-wide what we can do to retain staff and hire staff with, maybe it has to look at comparable rates, wages with other counties or city of Detroit. How can we actually go out there and hire staff? Like I said, we've been trying to recruit since November, and not even to have people apply is just, I don't know what the next step is.
well, if you have specifics on any of that, and again, maybe other counties are doing better and have a game plan that we don't have. Maybe it's better wages or better health care or those sorts of things. But I think that stuff is very, very important. And then COVID hasn't helped at all either. So,
Right.
but thank you for the work that you and your staff do. And even though you're only 50% of what it used to be, we appreciate your good efforts.
Thank you. We appreciate the support of the committee.
So is there anything else from committee members? Okay,
Yes, Mr. Chair, Colleen.
Commissioner Colleen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to follow up on your questions on the ME's office. And I do want to comment, Ms. Cora. Yeah, and underline 50% of the staff in the Auditor General's office than when I got on the commission. So absolutely. I believe the contract is up for the University of Michigan this fall
I believe so.
to manage the MEOs.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're doing this. I have a couple of questions. Aside from the issues that the chair raised with regards to the medical examiner, I guess I'm looking at what we can expect out of the audit that will help inform the decision about renewing that contract in terms of, are you going to be looking at the contract and how well they fulfilled the promises they made in there? Can you give me a little bit more about what the output of this audit and how useful it will be for me when it comes to making a decision later this year on re-upping the contract.
Yes, we're looking at the key compliance issues of the contract, looking at some of the criteria, the key areas of the contract, making sure that the medical examiner's office in the University of Michigan, they're meeting and performing those aspects of the contract. And we're also looking at some of the other controls over at the medical examiner's office. It may not have to do with the contract, but have to do with controls over cash receipts. A significant amount of money comes into the medical examiner's office for paying for autopsy reports, and we want to make sure controls are in place over that too. But we're kind of guiding this engagement similar to the correct care solutions when we did the jail medical services.
Yeah.
Guiding it that way.
Okay, very good. And that audit was very helpful. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unmute, Ray.
I was just making sure you're paying attention. So, can I get a recommendation to receive and file this item? Irma, you got to unmute also.
Sorry, so moved.
I support that.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. And thank you for supporting me on the mute thing, Irma. Madam Clerk, next item.
If such other matters may be properly submitted before the committee,
There are none at this time. Next item
public comments.
is, can you unmute everybody's phones and iPads and see if there's anybody that'd like to respond to our committee? Is there anybody who would like to respond? Third time, is there anybody that'd like to respond? Okay, next item, Madam Clerk.
Adjournment.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Coleman, supported by Commissioner Kleen. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
See you later.
Okay,
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
thank you.